Perhaps you have heard how the Roman Catholic Church is in the process of canonizing two new saints, Pope John Paul II, and before him, Pope John the 23rd. Now, Pope John the 23rd is best known for shocking the Vatican and the whole Roman Catholic world back in the early 60s when he called the Second Vatican Council in 1962, and all kinds of changes came into effect rather suddenly. Pope John Paul II, on the other hand, spent most of his ministry trying to get the church to go back to what it was before Vatican II. Two different people, two different agendas, two different constituencies. Now, I'm going to put tongue-in-cheek a little bit, but bear with me. I think if the city of Boston could vote on such a thing today, they would vote almost unanimously for, David Ortiz. Now think about it. He can draw a crowd. He gets people very excited about a cause on which they happily spend a lot of money. He has performed feats that many consider to be miracles, and I don't want to cheapen that thing, but many people consider him a miraculous player. Take his Grand Slam home run that turned things around in the second game of the Detroit series. I know, and many other people know who watch it, that ball should have been caught, but that's just a clear sign to some people that this was divine intervention. It was meant to be. If you're a Boston fan, he has provided a clear sense that the Almighty must be on our side. That's terrible theology. Terrible. But few seem to mind it when it's working for them. There's more. He radiates joy and goodwill. He's the ambassador for baseball. The Red Sox will be good to pay him when he's 80 to sit in the dugout and just be a presence. Wonderful sense of timing. And then there is, or was, his obvious influence over his teammates when he gathered them in the middle of the game in a dugout on national TV to give them a pep talk and say, this is it. And this is like, they listened. There was no twiddling of thumbs or playing a game on iPod when that happened, on their iPhone when that happened. His teammates jokingly call him Cooperstown for the Hall of Fame, because that's where they believe he's headed. And that's the equivalent of canonization in baseball. But while David Ortiz may be worshipped as a god, and I have that god, the word God in small case, by Red Sox Nation, his exploits on the diamond wouldn't qualify him to be considered a saint of the church, and that's casting no aspersions on him. But he's not trying to be canonized as a saint in the church. He's in the entertainment business, and he's very good at it. But other than a great influx of money into the team and the local economy, and a dose of euphoria for the fans, how does a World Series victory impact the quality of life, especially spiritual life, for anybody? Think about it. Today's litany contained an interesting collection of moral stars, and it turned out that they were from a wide variety of nations and traditions. Few were in the group canonized officially by the Catholic Church, but they all belong because of their spirit. And that's what we remember today. People who have been in touch with that spirit of self-sacrifice, of compassion, of risk, of boldness for the Spirit of the living God, and made the world change. Remember, most saints were not very popular in their day. No parades for them, with thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people waving and cheering. Many were hated in their day. Many were marginalized or ignored by the majority. It took years, centuries, like Joan of Arc, burned at the stake and then later declared a saint of the church, and not too much later. All too many were martyred. That's a theological term that really means murdered. Let's dust it off and just see it for what it is. And why were they killed? Because they challenged and scared people in power who had the power to do so. Jesus' mother and his siblings are trying to get him to stop talking like this because he's crazy and he's going to get hurt. And they knew what would happen if he kept up this way. He'd create a sensation. Rome would get nervous and he would be silenced. And that's what happened. They lived in the realm where sports, money, comfort, and entertainment just don't matter. I'm talking about the saints. But those things do matter to most of us, don't they? And that's the rub. That's the challenge. Hundreds of thousands of people cheered on their Sox yesterday during the great big duck boat parade. And yeah, I wish I could have been there. That would have been fun. But I'd know why I was there. I wasn't there to worship. I was there to have fun and say thanks. But imagine if there was as much enthusiasm among our young people to be like Mother Teresa or Cesar Chavez or even Jesus. That's happened before. Communities of faith have come alive when people have sought to embody the spirit of Jesus or of a saint. Joan Vanocchi, a writer for the Boston Globe, shared how she was teaching a junior high class in her Catholic church quite a while ago now, and she turned the discussion towards things that they admired about Jesus, and the room went silent. Junior high kids. Finally, one of them murmured, "He was a loser." She was stunned. He was a loser. Well, then she thought about it. He was, in the eyes of the current world. He didn't win. He didn't have money. He didn't have an army. But he won through losing. You know, he was somebody who taught us that it's by being last that we're made first in God's eyes. God has everything turned upside down. She was shocked, but then she asked them to name some people that they did admire, and right away, rock stars, baseball stars, super wealthy, people that they heard about in the news all the time, actors. Those famous people embody what these young people long to be. And that's scary and that's sad. Yes, I hope our young people can get better acquainted with some of these special people in the Christian Hall of Fame. But to be honest, the people who will influence them most in the aspect of their faith are the close-by saints. And that's you, and that's me. I'm very serious about this. Parents, coaches, extended families, mentors, Sunday school teachers. I'm serious because this is serious stuff. We are in a battle for the souls of our kids. And there's a lot of glitz and a lot of money that goes into teaching them things that really don't make any sense in terms of forming a lifestyle. They lead to emptiness and unhappiness. As sports fans, we can admire David Ortiz, but from afar. When we learn more about the details of the lives of the saints, we can be just as intimidated. I don't want to be like Mother Teresa. That's too much. Martin Luther King, living on the edge with kids, and then he was taken in his 30s. No thanks. But they are not to be admired from afar. Read them again. Martin Luther King, he freed dreamers to dream. Can't we do that? Don't we do that? Should we do more of that? Yes. Dream of what's bigger than what you are. Anne Frank preserved goodness in the midst of great unspeakable evil. Can't we all shine our light when and where it is needed most? When darkness surrounds us, or especially others? Too often we're silent when darkness is surrounding and choking others. And we need to speak up. We can be like Anne Frank. Mother Teresa, guardian of the unwanted, the rejected, the lowliest of the low, who enfleshed a reverence for all of life. We could do that in our own way. Most baseball players will never be able to hit like David Ortiz, but are any of these things out of reach for us? No. Today, when we remember the traditional saints of the church, let's give praise for the untraditional ones too. More lives are touched by the uncounted myriad of saints, unnamed, unrecognized, and uncheered for, than all the famous ones put together. In the words of St. Paul in Romans, which I read earlier, to all God's beloved in Rome who are called to be saints. That wasn't optional. You profess your faith in Jesus, you're called to be a saint. Not just a fan, not just a spectator, a saint, an active, on-duty person seeking to live out this faith that has touched your lives. There it is, black and white. This passage doesn't usually come up in conversation when we argue about what should be taken literally in the Bible, but this one should be. Called to be a saint. Not for the glory, but for the freedom of being your truest self, of giving your heart to God, and for the purpose of bringing healing to others and being a sign of light in this world. Much of what we do as saints may not seem all that noteworthy. It seems ordinary and tedious until you try to imagine life or the life of others whom you love without it. God has been speaking through the ordinary people since the beginning of time, so there are no excuses for us. I'm too ordinary. No, you're not. Will Allen Drumgoole of Tennessee wrote the following poem that seeks to capture this sense of the everyday nature of saints. An old man traveling a lone highway came at an evening cold and gray to a chasm vast, deep, and wide, through which was flowing a sullen tide. The old man crossed in the twilight dim. The sullen stream held no fears for him. But he turned when safe on the other side, and then builded a bridge to span that tide. "Old man," cried a fellow pilgrim near, "you're wasting time in building here. Your journey will end with the close of the day. You will never again pass this way. You have crossed the chasm deep and wide. Why build you this bridge at eventide?" The builder lifted his old gray head. Good friend, in the path I have come, he said, there followeth after me today a youth whose feet must pass this way. This stream, which has been not to me, to that fair-haired youth may pitfall be. He too must cross in the twilight dim. Good friend, I'm building this bridge for him. When you pledge to a church or another religious organization or outreaching, caring organizations, you help to build a bridge. Also, when you teach, formally and informally, when you're raising children, when you challenge out of love, when you admonish out of wisdom, when you make the countless sacrifices that love requires, you're building a bridge. Board by board, nail by nail. If you're uncomfortable thinking of yourself as a saint, why not call yourself a builder of bridges? Paul concluded with, I thank God through Jesus for every one of you because I hear of your lives of faith. He didn't say what they did. He didn't say they changed the world, but they're saints because they're living out of their faith. Nothing mentioned about the Hall of Fame here. Just compassionate, everyday living, springing out of faith in Jesus Christ. We can all do that. We must. Amen.